Right, good evening and welcome to the second episode of Chip Chat. And joining me tonight is Korrupt Klae. Klae was on the first episode of Chip Chat, but I wanted to get him back to talk about his own channel and, well, basically fill us in. And as well as that, we're going to talk about Nintendo's LABO and also the developments with Xbox Game Pass that we heard about this week. Both of us have already covered that in videos, so I just wanted to have some input from somebody else and have a little conversation about it. But before we get into that, I would like Korrupt Klae to tell us about Korrupt Games. So what is Korrupt Games and where can we find it?
All right. Hey guys, I'm Clay, Korrupt Klae, as I go by on the internet. I run Korrupt Games. It's a YouTube channel that I started back in 2015, and we've slowly been evolving into Korrupt Games over the first half of the year, and we've been trying to build it into more of a collaborative effort. So it was all me from the beginning, getting it all ready, building a whole library of shows and different ideas and really trying to be unique with it and have different episodes. We have passer plays, different like game reviews, thoughts on games, really talking about games and the gaming industry as a whole. And then we've slowly been transitioning into more of a collaborative effort where we bring on other creators or other gamers. Passionate people is really what we want to bring on and really talk about the industry and have a whole bunch of different faces and personalities where we discuss gaming and our thoughts on games and just where the industry is headed. And it's been a really awesome adventure so far. We've brought on two to three creators so far, and we've just been chugging away at videos, just trying to, and I wouldn't call it a rebrand. I would just call it a evolution of the channel, because it's a direction I've always wanted to head. It's always been a dream of mine to take my channel and always bring on more people and make this a collaborative effort, kind of like the likes of Rev3 Games or, kind of like IGN and all of those other big ones, but not get as big. And we really want to have a focus on the community. You hear all of these people talk about, oh, we've got a great community, or we are great with our community. And we really want to take that to the next level and make shows with community interaction and taking it back and forth with the community or playing games with the community and really make the community have a say and take their opinions on videos and just take that along with the different faces and personalities on the channel and turn it into something amazing.
Well, that's how we met, actually, wasn't it? You reached out to me on, I think it was Twitter initially, and we got talking more or less around the time when we were both starting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this has been your thing from the beginning, hasn't it? And you've recently brought on Smash and Outrage. I saw their intro videos that they did with you over the last couple of weeks. And you've been knocking it out of the park with the content as well over the last few weeks. And it's just really upped the ante on this. I've been desperately trying to keep up. I feel like a duck with my legs going under the water trying to keep up with you. Just trying to watch the videos and stuff as well.
And that's something we've discussed, is the whole, are we overwhelming people? But, we wanted to give people something to watch. I kind of slacked off towards the end of the year because I was trying to finish up Korrupt Games and get that ready. And then we just wanted to unload it on people and be like, here it is. Here's a whole bunch of content for you to watch, consume, discuss. So that's what we've been trying to do.
See, that's the other thing you do better than me, because I look at your channel and I look at all the graphics and everything, and it's obvious that you've spent some time on them. And I kind of just sort of started my channel, and then I was like, oh, I need some graphics. What the hell do I do now? And I'm still trying to make them now. I'm still, I was talking to you the other day, and you were helping me out to try and get something knocked out to try and get it working. But it's, if you, and this is a good story for people to hear as well, I think, that when you start a channel, you really should spend a little bit of time early on trying to get your graphics right and just have something that people can see, that they can look at, that they can identify you from, because I didn't do that. And I think it made a difference for your channel. And you're very forward as well in getting people to come in and engage with them. And I think that's really important. What you said there about, the bigger channels, sometimes there's no interaction at all. Say again, sorry?
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that's what we start out, me and you started out about the same time, you were saying, and I feel like we start out at a disadvantage. We're talking to small YouTubers. We start out at a disadvantage being this behind already, and people already have established channels and audiences, and, we have to break in somehow. And I feel like We've got to make our channels stand out to people, and that was my goal by trying to really market heavily and make the channel really appealing to the eye.
But you're not heavy-handed about it, though. Having said that, I mean, I had a guy who had been a friend at school who was trying to sell me insurance once, and he came around and he practically bashed me over the head with a mallet trying to sell. And it's not like that. It's much more. You are engaged with people on a personal level. Like I say, you and I met through doing this. It's not like we knew each other beforehand. And
No.
We've got to know each other through doing YouTube, and that's something that I feel that you, especially with your Discord as well. You're very engaged with the people who come onto there, and you talk to everybody, and it's not like there's a barrier and you're the kind of guy who does the channel and everybody else is are the guys who watch it. It's much more interactive. It's much more a to and fro that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I want to be one of the gamers in there chatting about it. If I start a conversation, I want to talk about it. And I mean, I feel like I have a lifelong friend in you, Joe, through this all. And I think that's amazing to say that we met through YouTube. And I want more of those lifelong friends. We have Grant, we have Sully, we have Smash. Now, I want all of these people to be lifelong friends with this entire YouTube thing. That's really what it's all about in my eyes, is building these relationships and these friendships and, building the community around it. It's awesome to me.
Well, in a way, that's why I'm doing the Chip Chat thing, because I found we did this Average Gamer podcast, and unfortunately we had to kind of let that slide a bit. But that gave me a taste for talking to other YouTubers, and that's why I wanted to start doing this and talk to you and talk to Grant and Sully and all the other people, and try and bring other people on as well. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I've actually managed to convince him to come on and hopefully later in the year talk about 8-bit gaming and building retro cabinets. And stuff like that is great. If you can get people to come on and chat to you. Okay, I've known this guy for many years, but there's other people out there. Grant said that he knows a journo who he might be able to get to come on and talk to me. And these are great opportunities to talk to people and learn and find out. And we touched on this, didn't we? We were talking beforehand. And there was the thing with, and we'll touch on this later on, with LABO, where Smash and I had a slightly different take on it. But I think that's a good thing. I think that interacting with people and having people have different opinions is fantastic, and that's what it's all about. If we all had the same opinion, it'd be dead boring. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, exactly what you're saying is the fact that we all have different opinions, and that's the whole goal of it all. And I feel like we both balance this well, is like, sure, we disagree from time to time, but we're not going to put you down for your opinion. You have your opinion. You're strong-willed in that opinion. Defend it, defend it back with us, because we want to create this conversation. We want to create the community. We want to talk to people. We want to get to know people, want to get to know what makes people tick, and really figure it all out. And that's cool that you've got all these people lined up for Chip Chat. I think it's going to be amazing.
I hope so. I'm also on it as well, so maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, well, I try not to lose my train of thought on that. But moving on from the YouTube, or if you like, moving backwards from YouTube, I wanted to ask you briefly about how you actually got into gaming in the first place, and what are your first memories of how you became a gamer. Because, for a lot of us, it's a kind of fledgling thing that we do. And it's not necessarily something that we want to do and talk about on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. That's something that comes later. So how did you first get into gaming?
So my gaming story is a little bit weird. I had always played video games. I had a babysitter when I was younger. Always played video games over at my babysitter's house. She had like an SNES, an NES, an N64, and I always dabbled in that, as much as I could as a little kid, not messing up her kids' saves and stuff, but I always wanted more, and I always played those consoles, and then moved on, and I had systems of my own, but never really got games for them, because my parents kind of thought that games were bad and, all of that stuff, and that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video. But then I got into the Wii. I bought a Wii, and I was just like, this is going to be my first console. It's going to be amazing. And the Wii was my first console. And to make a long story short, it ended up not being the console I wanted, and it just didn't have the games that I was looking for that I saw on other platforms. So I sold it, and I bought an Xbox 360. And that's kind of where my gaming started, was with the Xbox 360. And I just kind of loved that experience. My friends all had it, and we played co-op games like Gears of War and Halo and got into that and really just enjoyed the experience, and it carried on into my adult life. And now I have all of the systems. I actually don't have an Xbox One right now, but
yeah, because you sold it, didn't you?
Yeah, I sold it, but just went into my adult life having all of the consoles now, and I love gaming, and that's where it all started.
And from there, obviously, I was talking to you about this last year. You went on and you've built yourself a PC as well. And
ooh, yeah, flatline.
And,
that's what I call it.
Yeah, with all the green, all the green stuff. If any of you guys haven't checked out Klae's videos when he was building it, check it out, because he does a build, and he also does a tour of his game space. I think that's changed a little bit since then.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, but that's quite interesting as well to see, how people evolve and what kit they get and stuff like that. But that was really interesting. And so you mentioned there Halo. Was that an important game for you, or what was the most sort of important game or games that got you into gaming, as it were?
It's got to be Halo. Halo 1, and then finding out that playing over at a friend's house, Halo 1, and then he's like, oh, we have Halo 2 and there's online. We should try it out, see if we can get on there. And he had an old Xbox that he had bought from an online sale, but it actually still had live on it. It was connected to somebody's account. This is terrible, but it was connected to somebody's account. We guessed the password to it, and we got it right, because back in the day, the password only had to be like a combination of A, B, X, Y, or something on the D-pad, and it was just north, south, east, west, I think. And we got into it, and we started playing Halo 2 online, and that was just the funnest thing ever. And we played for hours, passing the controller back and forth. And that was the pivotal game that got me into it. I was just like, I got to have something like this. And then we went on to the 360, and it's just, Halo was big for me. The story, the multiplayer, all of it.
I think Halo was big for a lot of people. It wasn't really the first game I played in the sense of it wasn't influential in that sense. I'd played games, I'm a bit older than you, and I'd played games quite a lot prior to that, and I remember the first time I saw Doom and blew me away. But the thing is with Halo did something that changed everything, and I've said this before. Grant and I have talked about this as well, and I think I've spoken to you about this. The thing with Halo is it was the first game that brought that control mechanism to the consoles. It gave you a way of playing first-person shooters on consoles, and if you've ever gone back and tried to play GoldenEye, you'll know what I mean, because first-person shooters before Halo were horrible to play. Some of the games were great, but the controls were horrible. And
see, I've heard you guys talk about that, and I've never actually dived into older games. So hearing you guys talk about that, I'm like, that's so weird. It's like I'm so used to the Halo control. I
couldn't countenance the idea of getting a console. For me, because I was, my main gaming at that stage was first-person shooters, and that was basically the preserve of the PC. And so at that point, I was a PC gamer. And then Halo came out. And
changed everything.
Yeah, I went round to my mate's house, and he got me to hold a controller, and he's trying to show me how to circle strafe. And at first, I'm still not that great at it, but at first I couldn't, what? Yeah. And then once I got it, the dual thumbstick thing, we're aiming with one and moving with the other. I was like, oh yeah, this kind of simulates what you do with a keyboard and mouse. And so, okay, it's not as precise, but it works. And
it worked well.
Yeah, and now virtually every single first-person shooter, third-person shooter uses that same control mechanism. And whoever came up with that is a bloody genius. They should be knighted, because it changed everything. Mostly for the best, but, sometimes for the worst. Star Wars Battlefront 2, we won't go in there.
No, not today.
We've covered that at great length, haven't we?
Maybe when Anthem comes out, if it comes out.
Oh, please don't. For a brief moment, that there's I don't know if you've seen the Star Trek film First Contact, where
no.
Have you not? Well, there's a scene in it where Picard says to Data, "Did you consider going over to the Borg?" And Data said, "Yeah, for I don't know what the actual amount of time is, but it's like hundredths of a second." and that was like with me with Anthem. For this brief glimmer of a moment, I was thinking, "Oh, Anthem looks good," and then I remembered, "Oh, it's EA."
Oh, that's gone.
Yeah, and it was gone. And it's like, oh, Christ, is it really going to be a good game? I really struggle to think it will be. I really do. But we can live in hope, can't we?
We can. And we'll have to talk about that later.
Later on, yeah.
Could go on about that. Oh boy.
Last thing about you, though, I just want to cover one or two other things. You've mentioned briefly earlier on to me, about sometimes you have anxiety, and I mean, if you'd rather not talk about this, we can leave this one out and I can cut it out. But you talk about some of the issues you've had, and when I look at your videos and I look at your channel, it's overwhelmingly positive, and it's not positive in a sort of saccharine, everything's wonderful way like some YouTubers are. God, there's one guy out there who drives me nuts. Every time Nintendo release anything, that's probably why I was so negative about LABO, because I'd watched LABO, because I'd watched his video, and he was screaming, literally screaming about everything they were saying, and it was like, I can't do this, No. So you're positive, but you're not screaming like some school kid who's just
not screaming at LABO.
Yeah, I won't tell you what Jason said about LABO, but because it's too rude for a video going up on YouTube these days. But it wasn't particularly about LABO itself. It was about what the name sounded like. But anyway, for you guys out there, Jason's the guy who we talk to on Discord. So yeah, if you come into Klae's Discord or into my Discord, you can see Jason in there as well. And sometimes he's quite rude. So how do you maintain your positivity? Because you said about, you took some time off at Christmas. Is it difficult, or do you work through it? How do you manage that?
It's a lot of and yeah, I don't mind talking about it at all. You got to be open about it, otherwise that's the biggest thing, is being open about it, is what I found. And here recently, like, I've had my world turned upside down, and I moved back in with my parents for the second time, and I'm figuring it all out. I've figured it out. It's about being open, and you really have to be honest, and you have to come to grips with it and be honest. And you live every day as a new day, and that's what I try to do, is every day is a new day, let things go, and then just keep going. And that's how I stay so positive and try to stay so positive. I mean, I'm not perfect, nobody's perfect, but that's what happens, is just trying to be honest with myself. Like, are you having a good day? Are you having a bad day? Why? And just try to fix the why.
Yeah, just try and work through it. And I don't know about you, but you've mentioned about, having this community and stuff. And I found over the years, you have good friends and you have family around you who kind of know what is happening, and you can deal with things when you've got good people around you. It always helps.
Oh yeah. A good support system goes a long way, especially a good community like I have. I have a wonderful community there. They always pick me up when I'm down, and it's wonderful.
It does make a difference. I mean, and that actually leads me into one other thing, because I think it was last year you met somebody who has inspired you quite a lot in this YouTube thing, and that was Boogie2988.
Yeah, I did.
What was that like for you?
That was one of those points in my life where I was lost, and it's like Boogie was at this. We live not even 20 minutes away from each other. He lives in a town called Fayetteville, and he was at the arcade down there. It's an old retrocade they have, where they have all kinds of old cabinets, and he was down there, and they tweeted out that they were going to be down there doing a meet and greet. And I was just like, I don't normally do this kind of thing. I don't normally like jump like this and make a decision, but I was like, let's go meet Boogie. And it was just such a humbling experience. The guy is the nicest person you'll ever meet. And we talked about anxiety, and he's like, you got to take it one day at a time. And he gave me that advice, and it was amazing to meet him and see him, and just all that he's done and all he's come through, and just even to go and do that and get out of my comfort zone was an amazing experience.
He's it's difficult to say, because obviously there's this guy behind the camera. You've met him in person, obviously only for a short period of time, and he's a human being, so he probably has good days. Well, we know he has good days and bad days as well.
Yeah.
But he does always, for me, he always comes across as a thoroughly decent bloke, and I'm sure he can be a bastard at times. We all can. That's probably going to get flagged, me saying that, but never mind.
Bleep that out.
Yeah, but I think he's. I did a video defending him. Not that he needs me to defend him. I mean, the guy can defend himself perfectly well. The thing that happened, I'm not going to mention the names because I don't want to flag them up. But there was a thing that happened with some people, and he got caught in the middle of it. And I just thought he handled it so well. And people were even knocking him for that. And that, I think, is a lesson on YouTube as well. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how well balanced you approach something. There'll always be somebody out there who's going to want a piece of you for whatever you might say.
And I think Boogie he's got himself into that because he comments on everything, which that's what he does. He talks about everything, and sometimes he does get caught in the middle, and it's unfortunate, but he's got to say what he's got to say, and people aren't going to want to hear it. It wouldn't be, he wouldn't be as successful as he is if he didn't have the haters or the negative people out there, as well with the good or the bad.
And I mean, that brings me back to what we were talking about earlier about, having different opinions with people and having conversations with people and keeping it about the subject matter, keeping it about the issue at hand, not making it personal. Because having a difference of opinion with somebody is, well, I think I said this before we started recording, having a difference of opinion with somebody is not the same as disrespecting somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have a vehement disagreement with somebody, and I'm constantly having disagreements with some of my best friends. But we're still mates and we've known each other for years. So I think that's a lesson we can take away from that one. And I'm getting a bit preachy, so I think we'll probably move on from this.
That's fine. It's a good point to make, though.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I think as we've said, I think Boogie it personifies that approach. But let's get into the actual subject matter, if you like, beyond talking about us, our own personal opinions on YouTube and life in general. Let's get into a couple of actual game issues. And the first one I want to talk about briefly, and we've already touched on it slightly earlier on, is LABO. And I already know what Smash thinks about this, but what's your opinion on LABO? How do you think it's going to be received? What's your own personal view on it? Take it away.
Smash, if you guys don't know, is a guy on my channel that is a part of the collaboration, but he made a video discussing it, and I didn't really put one out there because I didn't have enough time, but he was gung-ho for it because he was excited about it. But I kind of sit on the edge of this thing. I think it's a great idea. I think Smash made a good point that it's for kids and it's directed at kids, and I think that gets lost in the whole people looking at it. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it would be something that I would buy. I don't think I'd shell out my own money for it just because it looks like another one of Nintendo's gimmicky peripheral things, but kids may love it. It may explode. It could be the next thing to make the Switch take off even more than we thought it would. You never know, but I always look at Nintendo as the people that are innovating and they are trying to push gaming forward. And just by looking at this, make your own peripherals, make a fishing pole, make this, that, and the other. You can't deny that they're trying different things. They're not sticking to the same old thing that we've seen, the same old song and dance. They're actually trying to push gaming and push it in a new direction and, a toys to life thing. It's different. I like it. I wouldn't necessarily buy it myself, though.
Yeah, if I'm being a little bit more sort of balanced than I was in my own video, as I say, I watched someone screaming about it just before I made my video, which kind of put me in a bad mood before I started. But, I think Nintendo, they're never boring, are they? Let's be honest. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Wii U was a little bit boring. But generally speaking, they're not.
The Wii U was pretty boring.
Yeah. But generally speaking, they're not boring. They're always doing something strange and weird and different. And that's why people love them, isn't it? That's why we all love them. We love them and we hate them sometimes as well. And I think that LABO, and I did say this in my video, I think that the concept's great. I haven't got a problem with the concept at all. My only issue would be durability. It is for kids, and my kid isn't particularly heavy-handed, but I can't see it lasting too long with him.
Because kids like to break things.
Exactly right. And when you factor in the cost as well, it could get very expensive. But would I rather it wasn't coming out, or would I rather it was coming out? And I think on balance, I'd rather it was coming out. So I'm with you. I probably won't buy it. I don't know. If my kid likes it, maybe I will. I don't know. Or one of the kits or something. I don't know.
Now, do you see him being interested in it? I meant to ask you that because I haven't watched your video yet. I'm sorry. Been busy, but I haven't watched it. Do you see your kid actually wanting and catching interest in it, or does he move to different things?
I think that if it had come out 2 years ago when he was really into Lego, then he might have been. But now he's 8 years old now. He's got an older cousin who's a teenager, and he's trying to be like him. And, he wants to be cool, and he's looking more at well, he's already looking towards online gaming and shooters and things like that, and I have to kind of reel him in. Maybe I need that LABO, fishing rod. I need to reel him in a bit because that's the sort of thing he wants to be doing. I'm not sure. To him, I think it would be looking back to being a kid, and I think he's looking forward to being a teenager. A bit early for my liking, but and I think that's true of a lot of his friends as well. I think they're all moving on a bit from LABO, but then maybe they're not the right demographic. Maybe the slightly younger kids, 6, 7-year-olds, 7-year-olds. I mean, he's 8. I don't know. And then the next lot will be the kind of 25-year-old kids, the ones who are yelling down the pipe about how brilliant this is.
Yeah, this is amazing.
So it's funny because with LABO, I'm very skeptical about it, but I kind of want it to be interesting, and I want it to not be as flimsy as I worry it might be.
Yeah, we don't wish it to fail. We don't expect it to be something that flops. We want to see it do good, but it's just not for us.
No, exactly. And I actually think it'll sell like hotcakes over Christmas.
Oh, probably.
If they can put enough of them out, and I'm not going to get into that one again, this Nintendo thing again, but if they can get enough of them out into the shops, I think it'll sell really well. But I don't.
And market it well.
Yeah. I think they could make it a really fun thing. The problem is that when people buy them and they don't last very long, that might have a, not saying that they won't last very long, but if they don't, that could have a negative effect, and that could stop future sales, if you see what I mean. So,
yeah, and I did see somebody saying that LABO is kind of like, it may be Nintendo's take on VR. Did you hear stuff about that?
I saw, somebody was saying something like that. I couldn't quite get my head around that.
Like Nintendo probably doesn't have the power in the Switch to do or pull off VR, but you have that backpack or that fishing rod, so you're kind of being like VR in a sense, which if that's what they're trying to do, that is brilliant in my opinion. It's just like, okay, so we don't have VR and we can't do it because of the lack of power, but I like seeing it in that light if they could do something like that.
Yeah, I suppose from that point of view, it's a typical Nintendo take on something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. They take something and spin their own way on it.
Exactly. But I think we've already touched on this. I think it's aiming at a completely different market to the VR market. I mean, I won't even let my kid put the VR headset on because, according to the information, he's not supposed to wear them at his age. He has actually at shows and things. He's put the VR headset on, but I don't want him seeing. I mean, I get headaches if I have it on for too long. So his eyes are still forming and stuff. Maybe I'm too protective as a parent, but I just when he's 12. By which time it'll have gone the way of 3D, probably. Let's hope not.
Sure.
Anyway, let's move on from LABO and meandering conversations about that, and start a meandering conversation about Xbox Game Pass. And we've both put out videos on this.
An hour apart, too, guys.
Yeah. You beat me to it. I was like, oh, he's beat me to it again. You usually beat me to it, to be fair.
You usually beat me to it. Be honest. You're always like, boom, and I'm like, oh no, I had that same idea. Even when we were chatting before, you're like, yeah, I was thinking about making this video on this, and I was like, yeah, me too.
Well, the thing is, there's only a limited number of things you can talk about. So, I mean, everyone's going to be funneled down the same road, aren't they? And I saw some stuff, and this will channel into Game Pass in a minute, because I mentioned this to you before we got started recording. But I read some article the other day. I watched a video by a guy called Sid Alpha, and he was talking about some leaked documents. And you have to be a bit careful because I'm not sure of the source of the documents, but the documents look like they're to do with the way in which certain companies want to use manipulation techniques to get gamers playing more and therefore paying more money and engaged more. And they're talking about using social engineering, and they're talking about using things like Facebook to follow you around and try and funnel you back into the game. And it's really cynical and really quite worrying. But that's kind of off topic, and I'll get back into that in a minute. Let's just get back into Game Pass for a minute and tell me what you think. Obviously, you've done a video about it, but just give me your overarching view on that one.
Looking at Game Pass, I feel like it's a good idea. I feel like in my video I said it. I feel like it's it's a little bit of Microsoft playing diversion from the fact that they have no games, but it's also them building this service that is something that appeals to a lot of people in the fact that, hey, here's all of our exclusive games. Here's 100 Xbox 360 and Xbox One games for a low price that you can play. And it's pushing us towards that all digital future that I keep talking about, that I feel like Microsoft wants us to be a part of ever since the launch of the Xbox.
I think you and I have both been on the same page about this for a long time. I remember even back as far as when they were talking about Play Anywhere. And a lot of gamers, a lot of Xbox gamers were getting up in arms. What do you mean you're making your games available on PC, you know? And I was looking at it at the time, and I think you were as well. And we're saying, actually, this isn't such a bad thing. And if you look at the way they've come round now with Game Pass, and they're making the Game Pass exclusives, certainly the first party exclusives, are all going to be coming out and being made available on Game Pass on the Xbox and Game Pass, well, and on the PC. If you've got it on, if you've got Game Pass and it's crossplay or Play Anywhere, it'll be available on PC as well. And in my video that I did today, I actually tested that out, and it works. It's just there waiting for you to download. And this is going to be with all their future, you know, releases. And like you say, it does cover up a little bit of the fact that they haven't got a lot out there, but they will have more games come in. And I think it's going to be a little while. I think you mentioned that you think it may be into the next generation before we see a lot more games coming for them.
I think that's where we're headed. And I like I said, I really think it's a diversion right now. I think they're doing great things at Microsoft. I think they're building their back catalog of backwards compatible games, and they're building this library of Xbox One games that they have, and also building all of these services in order to push us into the next generation. So when they get to the next generation, whatever it is, they'll have backwards compatibility with all the extra Xbox One, Xbox 360, and even original Xbox games. They'll have Xbox Play Anywhere, where you buy a game digitally and you can get it on PC or vice versa. And you can have Xbox Game Pass, where you can sign up for a service and have access to 100 Xbox One, Xbox 360 games, and the first-party exclusives on the time of launch. So, I mean, like, it looks like a tale of desperation right now, but imagine when, you know, they get caught up with exclusives, and it could be dangerous.
I even think if you look at, you know, not everyone's going to like State of Decay 2, not everyone's going to like Crackdown. I mean, we've joked about Crackdown. I think when we did the Christmas show, we were all joking about Crackdown, and I think Sully made some very funny points about that. But then obviously there's what's the pirate one? I forget the name of it.
That's Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves. You know, these games aren't necessarily going to appeal to everyone, but you know, Sea of Thieves has kind of crept up on me, and I'm a lot more interested in it now than I was, say, 6 months ago.
Yeah, you see all of these people hating on it, but it's like #1 being streamed right now. Did you see that? Like,
I didn't know.
Yeah, it was the #1 on Twitch. I mean, there's a beta going on right now, but still, the fact that it's that popular in people's eyes. So, like you said, it's creeping up, and I'm definitely interested too.
I just think that just having those games coming out was kind of okay. We've got these 3 games coming to Xbox. It's kind of, a lot of people were like, yeah, okay, good, but you know, they're not really on a par with some of the Sony first party stuff, and that's true.
Yeah.
But now adding them to Game Pass and saying throw down your $7.99 a month, or I think it's $9.99 in the States, is it?
Yep.
$9.99 a month, and these games are coming out, and you can play them from day one, and you can pre-download them for when they go live, and suddenly these games that were, you know, okay, Sea of Thieves is a bit more interesting in some ways, and my personal one, the one I'm interested in, is State of Decay 2, because I really like the first one, although I didn't finish it.
Too.
I'm interested in those games, but a lot of people weren't that interested. But you sort of work it into Game Pass, and you say, right, you're getting these games for $7.99, $9.99 a month as part of the package, and on top of that, by the way, have you got a PC? Because you can play them on your PC as well. I think all of a sudden that becomes a big deal, and it's a pretty big deal now. But I think you're right. I think as time goes on, that becomes a much bigger deal, and I think it could be a really good move for Microsoft in terms of how they push forward the platform. But I also think it's going to be good for them in terms of making the platform more about the platform. We've said this before, again, to go over this again. Yeah. You and I have both said this, that Microsoft were going for this overarching ecosystem. They're not interested in the Xbox for the box. I don't think they're getting rid of the Xbox box, but it's just going to be one thing in the whole picture, if you like, one part of the picture. And they've
said it. It's a family of consoles. So you can only imagine that they have a family of devices that are going to be able to play these games in the future.
Exactly right. The flip side of that, though, is while I think that's a good thing, and it's funny I said about LABO that I was quite skeptical to begin with, but part of me still wants to be excited about it in a way. It's the flip side with Game Pass, because I'm kind of excited about it, but there's the skeptic in me keeps sending up little warning flares saying, what about those things that Phil Spencer keeps saying about, games as service and the service model and all these kind of things he keeps working into every conversation he has. And then I look at all the stuff that went on last year about, loot boxes. And then I look at this leaked document talking about manipulating gamers and pushing gamers towards a service model and trying to use subtle techniques of manipulating them into parting with more money. And I think Game Pass could be used as a way of just putting the games in front of the player, not with the intention of that being the way they make their money, but the way they make their money being the add-ons, the extras, the other stuff that they get you to do in relation to that game. And that's fine up to a point, as long as it doesn't get really, really cynical. And we've already seen just how cynical the gaming market can be. I mean, I don't know, what do you think about
that? I mean, you're totally right, and I didn't even think about that. The fact that, like, Halo 5 had rec packs, which were loot boxes, essentially. And then you had Gears of War 4, had loot boxes in them. Yep. And all of these games from Microsoft, their first-party games, have loot boxes.
Yeah,
it could be like we said, it could be a really good thing. But this, if they implement the loot boxes and they make them it could get really bad. It could get very, very bad for them if they try to. Oh yeah, $9.99 a month, but they're basically mobile games that you, and that worries me. I didn't even think about that, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Thinking about, okay, so here's Halo 6, but loot boxes and loot crates and pay to win, and brings me right back into the end of the year. I was just starting to think, okay, maybe this is going to be a good year, and then it's like, oh no,
Sorry, no. I'm depressed, you.
No, you're okay. It's not a big deal. It's the reality of things and where we're headed with the industry. It's just,
yeah. I for me, it's like I don't mind the loot boxes. I mind. My view on that. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
No, just leave them out.
Same view.
Yeah. We've discussed this before, but I don't mind a service model up to a point if it's done in a way that is acceptable, to us as gamers, that we're not being fleeced. That's the bottom line. That we feel that the money that we're spending is a fair amount of money. The problem there is that if you're putting a game in front of somebody at $7.99 a month and they've got these 100 games, people are more likely to go, oh, well, I don't mind spending a little bit on this and a little bit on that. And then if you're then hounding them, it'd be a lot more subtle than that. If you're kind of following them along on social media and everywhere else and go, oh, look, this game's still out there. Go and pay you this, and you can do this in this game, and you can do that in this game. And if it gets like that, then I'm going to start losing interest, to be honest.
Yeah, I will abandon ship completely. I'll start only playing indie games, or I'll do something. I'm not going to stay with it if that's where we're headed. I can handle, I don't want to, but that's where we're at. I can handle cosmetic and stuff like that. But when you start affecting gameplay like they did with Shadow of War and Battlefront 2, and you start affecting my gameplay and how it turns out, and you start influencing me and trying to funnel me down this path of pay to win, pay to progress, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not interested in it at all. For me, there's two sticking points for me. It can't be pay to win and it can't be loot boxes. You know,
Yeah.
if you leave the loot boxes out, look, I don't like microtransactions. But if the microtransactions are, this is what you're getting when you pay your money, I can take it or leave it. That's why they don't like it, because you're not encouraged to keep buying. But I can take that or I can leave that, and I can decide for myself if I want to buy something. And if I look at something, I say, I can have a pink gun or whatever, and we said this before, that's fine, and that's up to the gamer to do that. And if you do that in a way that is attractive to people and you allow them to spend money that they can afford, then everyone's a winner. I'd rather not see it at all. But if that's the way things are going, then that I can put up with. But if I feel like I'm being manipulated, and the problem is that a lot of people won't realise that they're being manipulated until they find that their bank account is empty. that is a problem for me, and I think those two things, the pay to win and loot boxes, I don't think they have any place in video games. I don't get why anyone would defend that.
They have a place on your mobile phone, and that's about it.
Yeah. But I mean, and it feels like I've had a downer on Game Pass, and I've just made two very positive videos about it. So, I do think for now, at least, it looks great. I just think we have to approach it with a little bit of trepidation and be a bit wary about where it might go.
Yeah, but, just with everything going on right now, we definitely have to keep an eye out for the greed and the them slipping it in there. And it could be a good thing I put out a good video on it, but it could also take a turn for the worst. You never know where they're headed and how desperate they'll become for that next fix on loot boxes or cosmetic items.
It's about our experiences already. We've already had bad experiences, especially last year. We saw where this is heading, and if you extrapolate from where we are to where it could end up, it's not a good place. And I'm hoping that something might happen as happened for me with the Switch, because I still have my reservations about the Switch, but I started from a bad place with the Switch and it ended up in a much better place. And I'm hoping this is going to be the case here. I started in a good place. I hope it's going to end up in an even better place. But, we do have to be wary.
The only good place would be if they disappear.
Yeah, well, quite. And that's not going to happen, is it? Not unless we get in a time machine and go back to the 80s. Go back to the old 8-bit era.
That's true. And then we'll be sitting here in 5 years' time and they'll have something much worse. And we'll be like, can we go back to 2018?
Yeah, that's the worry, isn't it? It'll just keep getting worse and worse.
That is what I'm worried about, to be honest with you, Joe.
I just hope that Phil Spencer's not sitting there with Andrew Wilson whispering in his ear saying, microtransactions, loot boxes, you want to, Phil. Because that's, if EA have their way, that's all it's going to be. But, Right, I think we've covered it, haven't we? Have we covered it?
Yeah, that's all we wanted to discuss today.
Okay, so did you want to just tell everybody about your site again? Just let them know, how to find you and social media and all the rest of it.
Sure. I'm over on YouTube at Korrupt Games. Just type that in and you'll find us. We're producing videos just about every day, if not every other day. And over on Twitter at twitter.com/Korrupt Klae. That's my personal one, or twitter.com/Korrupt Games. That's the best way to find what we're doing and how we're doing it and how often.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, I do suggest you go over and have a look at his channel. It's well worth a look, and Clay's always got an interesting view, as have the other guys. Well, I've not seen anything from Outrage yet, but Smash always has something interesting to say as well. These guys are really putting out a lot of content. It really is worth checking them out, and I keep saying that. But yeah, go and check them out. Come over to Clay's Discord. I'm on there as well, and you can come over to mine as well if you feel like it. And I think we're out of here, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know where to find me, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.